Tonight, from a Twitter fact check to a presidential executive order, the latest on the president's move to target political bias on social media. Plus, will the Republican National Convention stay in North Carolina? Maybe not, according to the president. Why the president is pushing a deadline on North Carolina. And how higher education could look very different come the fall semester. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. The president sounds the alarm on what he says is social media censorship. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Eric Phillips. John and Jenna are off tonight. Well, President Trump moving forward with an executive order targeting social media companies. It makes it easier for companies like Facebook, Google, and Twitter to be held liable for content posted on their platforms. CBN News White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joining us now with the details. And Ben, all of this really going back to the president being fact-checked on Twitter earlier this week, right?
Yeah, Eric, you're right. The White House says the goal is to prevent online censorship. And this really all began back in 2019, but picked up in the past day or two, as you were talking about, Eric, after Twitter applied a fact-check feature to a few of President Trump's tweets regarding mail-in ballots. Now, Trump fought back today via Twitter, writing, "So ridiculous to see Twitter trying to make the case that mail-in ballots are not subject to fraud. How stupid. There are examples and cases all over the place. Our election process will become badly tainted and a laughingstock all over the world." Now, President Trump has threatened to shut down Twitter and other social media sites that he argues censors conservative voices.
The president will take action to ensure that big tech does not stifle free speech and that the rights of all Americans to speak, tweet, and post are protected. If we were to judge the bias of Twitter and its top employees by their own words, the case would be an easy one to make. Twitter's head of site integrity has tweeted that there are, quote, actual Nazis in the White House, and no fact-check label was ever applied to this absolutely outrageous, offensive, and false claim made against the White House and its employees.
Now, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey pushed back on the White House, saying, "Our intention is to connect the dots of conflicting statements and show the information in dispute so people can judge for themselves. More transparency from us is critical so folks can clearly see why behind our actions." Bottom line, this executive order by President Trump aims to crack down on online platforms that decide to handpick speech that Americans have access to and even convey online. Eric?
A controversial issue we'll continue to follow, Ben. Thanks. President Trump does not think North Carolina is opening up quick enough ahead of the Republican National Convention. The days long is even scheduled in Charlotte. The event, I should say, is scheduled in Charlotte. But the president says North Carolina's Democratic Governor Roy Cooper is reopening slowly and suspiciously, and is threatening to move the convention elsewhere. The Republican governors of Florida, Georgia, and Texas have all said that their states could host the event. Republican Congressman Dan Bishop serves the people of North Carolina. Earlier today, he spoke with Faith Nation anchor Jenna Browder about the threats to move the RNC.
Huge implications if it's not in North Carolina. Congressman, what would it mean for your state if it moves out of there?
Well, not just North Carolina, but my hometown, Charlotte. It would be an extraordinary blow if the RNC can't go forward. And I think what we're seeing, the pandemic response in North Carolina by Governor Roy Cooper, I'm sorry to say, has been sort of timid and uncreative and kind of non-transparent, and it appears also to be uncertain. So the RNC reflects, I think, an opportunity, really important recovery opportunity for the hospitality industry, but the entire city of Charlotte. And of course, given where we are, that is in jeopardy.
Yeah. Some have said that keeping the event safe really falls on the GOP and not the state. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it goes back to what I said, which is that Governor Cooper's manner of dealing with this is creating sort of It's taken North Carolina, all the southern states, all of which have had similar experience. North Carolina, everyone who has suffered coronavirus, the illness, and certainly the people who've lost loved ones to it, every single person is valued, and it's a very heartfelt loss. But if you take population-wide, North Carolina's experience has been relatively modest by comparison. We have not suffered, for example, the experience in New York and New Jersey have, many other places. So other governors in the same circumstances in the Southeast, Tennessee to our west, South Carolina immediately south, Georgia, Alabama, Florida. Florida's had a tough time, but the governor there's really sort of an aggressive and creative management where they focus on hotspots. They are very attentive to the needs of congregate care facilities, nursing homes. In North Carolina, we've had between 63 and 69% of the death in our circumstances have come from congregate living facilities, and yet the government's response to those is less aggressive than it should be. So we're seeing in this case, I think the RNC situation, the notion that the onus should be on the Republican National Committee, I don't really want to get into a tit for tat about who ought to go first, but the governor's got the responsibility to govern.
A lot of other governors kind of chomping at the bit to host it in their states. The president, he's also been tweeting about it. Is there a point, Congressman, where you just go, you wipe your hands of it and say you can have it?
Well, I'm not going I'm going to be never say die, because I do believe not only is it a recovery opportunity that is very meaningful, certainly to particular industries, but I think to Charlotte as a whole. And that's my hometown, and I represent part of Charlotte. But I also believe that if it's due to a governor that among all the region is standing out as slow, stodgy, and uncreative in the way this is managed, it's going to leave a mark on Charlotte that will persist. And I think that would be, I would do everything I can to guard against that. So I want to be constructive and call on everybody. I do think the president did us a service by sort of calling it out and putting it out there and kind of giving a deadline to get this figured out. But from beyond that point, I'll work on it if in any way I can. I think Republican National Committee should be very cooperative, but I think the governor's people need to sort of right their ship and start approaching things in a methodical, well thought out, rational, predictable way.
Congressman Dan Bishop, it's always good to see you. Thank you for joining us, and stay safe up there on the Hill.
Likewise, Jenna. Thank you for your time.
More tough news tonight on the employment front. New jobless numbers out today show more Americans need help from the government. 2.1 million workers applied for unemployment last week. That translates into 10 consecutive weeks now of new jobless claims, totaling nearly 41 million since the pandemic began. Almost half of all Americans now say they or someone they live with have lost some or all of their income because of the virus. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell warns the unemployment rate could go as high as 25%. Chief Political Analyst David Brody now with us for more insights on this. And David, 100,000 dead, 41 million seeking unemployment. But those numbers alone, when you look at them, do they really add up for trouble for President Trump when it comes to re-election?
Well, Eric, traditionally, I would say yes for any president. But we know with Donald Trump, it's always been unconventional. And I've always maintained, Eric, that Donald Trump will win unconventionally and he'll lose unconventionally. And if you go by that motto, well, if he's going to win unconventionally, he could be the first president in a very long time to actually, I shouldn't say a very long time, ever, to win re-election with horrible, abysmal economic numbers. It could really happen. So we'll see. Bottom line is, fourth quarter numbers will be crucial as we hit the fall. We'll see what the economy is like, and then we'll go from there, because Donald Trump knows that folks not just vote with their wallet, but they vote with their heart. And if they're feeling good about the economy, then that's good news for Trump.
Yeah, what a difference a couple of months make the economy just soaring a little while ago. Turning now to Twitter and this new executive order of political bias on social media. Is there more to this move than the president being upset about being fact-checked on Twitter?
Well, there's a little bit more to it. I mean, look, for a while, and this hasn't gotten a lot of play, but Donald Trump has talked about making changes to Section 230, right, the Communications Decency Act. As a matter of fact, Marco Rubio and many other lawmakers have wanted to see this liability protection for big tech to go away, or at least be amended, and that's what we have here. So, I mean, I think to a degree, this has been going on behind the scenes for a while. But clearly, Twitter, with the fact-checking of Donald Trump, gave Trump a huge platform to say, now is the time to do it. And that's exactly what he's doing.
Well, we know this is a president who tweets what he wants, when he wants, how he wants. But shouldn't there be a standard of truth to what he's putting out?
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, there should be a standard of truth. But you say to what he is putting out. Well, how about to what potentially Nancy Pelosi is putting out, to Chuck Schumer, to folks that have an agenda on the left side, the right side, and anywhere in between. So, I mean, if we're going to get to a standard of truth, well, Eric, you and I both know, what in the world does that mean exactly? Whose standard of truth are we talking about? The good news here, and we're on Faith Nation, is that God has a standard of truth, and that's the only one ultimately that matters.
You better preach, David Brody. Thank you very much, as always, for joining us.
You bet. Thanks, Eric.
Well, outrage continues to grow over the death of a black man being detained by Minneapolis police. Tonight, the smoke is still clearing after protests erupted in the city Wednesday. Violent marchers looted stores and set fires. The crowd originally took to the streets demanding justice for George Floyd, who died after a police officer knelt on his neck during an arrest. Today, a call for no further violence.
I want to know what George's girlfriend, Courtney, said about George. He was all about love and all about peace. He did not receive that love and that peace from our officers on the night of May 25th. But we can still honor him by practicing those values during a time of great strife.
4 police officers have been fired over the deadly incident. The mayor is calling for criminal charges. The FBI and Department of Justice are now investigating the death of 46-year-old George Floyd. Coming up, Hong Kong's fight for democracy and the threat of China. You're watching Faith Nation.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN Newswatch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN Newswatch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Yes, right on time.
From Superbook.
Pepper's Pizza Palace is donating pizza for everyone today. Wait. I have big plans today.
Trust in God even when times are tough. He has a plan for your life.
Hey, we're gonna be late for the grand opening.
My parents want me to help with this outreach thing, feeding the community. What am I supposed to do here? Superbook!
Join the Superbook Club and get Superbook The Birth of Moses, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25.
Pharaoh ordered all newborn Hebrew boys thrown into the Nile River, and I have a 3-month-old brother.
The Birth of Moses. Yours for a gift of only $25.
What will you do the next time the soldiers come? I do not know, but I trust God has a plan for all of us.
Superbook Club members, free streaming for seasons 1, 2, and 3 is now available.
Welcome back. Hong Kong is at a tipping point. China has just approved a controversial security measure as people in Hong Kong fight for democracy. For more on this, we turn now to our senior international correspondent, George Thomas. George, always great to have you.
Thank you, sir. Good to be on.
So what does this Chinese security measure mean for Hong Kong?
Yeah, so basically, I've been covering China, the rise of China for CBN News for the last 25 years. And every time I go to China, there is a sort of underlying message that the government wants to send to every citizen in China, that your ability to criticize the Chinese government, your ability to criticize the Chinese government leadership, the way of life, freedom of the press, all of these elements are basically no-go areas. So they use this as a way to say, they use these security measures to say, hey, listen, we're trying to protect our national sovereignty from foreign influences and folks who try to, meddle in our affairs and so forth. But in reality, this is all about stifling speech. The ability to publicly demonstrate, take to the streets is going to be forbidden. The freedom of the press, an independent judicial system. Hong Kong, that was the beauty of Hong Kong. When the Brits handed Hong Kong to China back in 1987, the idea was that Hong Kong would be this self-autonomous entity that would rule for the next 50 years. And so they have another 20-some years left as part of this agreement. But what the Chinese government declared last week was basically saying, you know what, we can't wait that long.
Yeah, and speaking of that, how significant is that?
It's very significant. I mean, because in essence, this is the creeping China hegemony in the region, whether it's in the Philippines, whether it's dealing with vis-a-vis Taiwan. It's this idea that China's military, economic, political, and social, psychological influence is expanding. It's creeping across that part of the world. And so for the United States and Western countries, it's a big deal.
What's your sense, George, of what will come next in terms of the fight for democracy in Hong Kong?
It's going to be a very, very tough road ahead. I mean, you just have to look at China. The citizens of China today have no opportunity to dissent, to protest, to have freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of the press. They have nothing. Any sort of discussion about politics and sensitive matters, human rights, religious freedom. I think of Hong Kong Christians who have, for the last 25 plus years, they have flourished. There's a flourishing, a growing church in Hong Kong, and today, that's under pressure. Their future is uncertain, just as the certainty and the future for Christians on the mainland has always been precarious. What this means going forward is that Hong Kong is going to be under tremendous pressure. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo talked about, that he doesn't consider, the United States does not consider Hong Kong as an autonomous region anymore. What that means is that, trade is going to be difficult. Various Fortune 500 companies and other businesses that have enjoyed and done really well in Hong Kong as a financial hub, they're going to be looking at their future down the road as well.
A story we will definitely continue to watch very closely. CBN Senior International Correspondent George Thomas, thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
The future of higher education hits a roadblock. What happens next when Faith Nation returns here on the CBN News Channel?
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m.
Protect your sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life.
a free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Colleges and universities around the country are weighing in on how to safely allow students to return to campus this fall. Numerous schools like UNC, Notre Dame, and Creighton University have announced shorter semesters, with students leaving campus for the year when they go home for Thanksgiving. Others, like Princeton, are opening to students with a normal fall schedule. Well, college educators have good reason to expect significantly fewer students this fall. The uncertainty of it all posing a potential nightmare scenario for higher education. Heather Sells has more.
Before the COVID lockdown, Christian college student Brianna Rios enjoyed her classes, student leadership, and time with friends. When the pandemic hit, life changed as her university went online and she struggled.
It made it extremely hard to grasp the material, to stay motivated. But luckily, my professors were extremely understanding and they made the coursework extremely interactive.
For many college students, this sudden pivot to online education became a disaster. An April survey by a key college marketing firm found that 7 in 10 students said their online experience was worse than in-person classes.
They hate it. They absolutely hate it.
Simpson Scarborough Chairman Elizabeth Johnson says students felt like they were teaching themselves and missed access to their professors. The big problem now, the number of students saying they're unlikely to return.
Over half of these kids' parents have been either furloughed or laid off. They say that their family's financial situation has changed dramatically. And higher education is not inexpensive, and so that's the biggest factor.
High school seniors are also uncertain, with a growing number changing their plans to attend a 4-year residential college. Many are opting for community college or online programs next year. Factoring in fewer freshmen and returning students means colleges could see a 20% dip in enrollment. For administrators, it's tough planning for the fall. Will COVID be short-lived, continue into 2021, or work itself out in multiple waves?
There's all kinds of scenario planning happening on college campuses. They're talking about things like having an option where only the freshmen come back to campus.
William Jessup University President John Jackson is urging students to continue with their college plans.
We are making every attempt to have fall classes resume. We might have to have half class capacity. We might have to have alternating between Zoom and face-to-face, but I think we're going to have that experience. And I would encourage students to search for a school that can give them that.
Regent University has offered online classes for years and easily made the switch this spring. Still, its chief academic officer says technology is not the solution.
We cannot rely on technology. What I've seen many schools do, again, K-12 and colleges, they somehow think technology is the answer. It's not. It's really faculty and teachers with a heart for the student.
Shanika Farias, an upperclassman at Gordon College in Massachusetts, says she'll be back in the fall but doesn't want online classes.
Just doing school at home is just not ideal. I have 2 younger sisters and a little brother who's 2 years old. So waking up in the morning and really trying to get ready for classes and really keeping up with school is just not the same.
She's trusting and praying that she and her classmates can go back to campus.
This is an opportunity for us to really take this situation. Okay, how can I turn this into something positive?
That may be the silver lining for higher ed. students seen just how much they appreciate the college classroom experience, face-to-face time with friends, and on-campus activities. Johnson is advising schools to help students remember what brought them to campus in the first place. And she's making the case that supporting universities should be a national priority, even during a pandemic.
We believe higher education is an essential service. The people who are going to discover a cure and build all the tests, they were educated at our American colleges and universities. I mean, this is an industry that must survive and must thrive to educate people who are going to contribute to our economy.
Heather Sells, CBN News.
Thanks, Heather. A loophole for the shutdown border. We'll head to the area that's part Canadian, part American when we come back.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link, Tuesday nights at 6:30.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Get Protect Your Sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Finally tonight, the pandemic caused the border between Canada and the U.S. to close, separating some families, friends, and even couples, except in one park, Peach Arch Park. Say that 10 times fast. It straddles the U.S.-Canadian border, typically used by travelers who need to stretch their legs and get fresh air. Now the park has another appeal. People who live on opposite sides of the border are flocking to the unifying park to spend a little time with the ones they love. More than just a typical walk in the park. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.